And this Anthony Richardson injury leads me to the biggest story from this Colts game yesterday. Joe Flacco got to play. And as soon as he came out, I know there were some Colts fans that were just over the moon excited. Like, yay, we get to play the 39-year-old quarterback. Oh, I can't wait to see what this 39-year-old who can't move can do. And I know some of you fell in love with what Joe Flacco did yesterday. 16 of 26. That's only a 62% completion percentage. 168 yards. Oh, my gosh. 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Oh, I know some of y'all are just loving you some Joe Flacco. He was so amazing. This is all sarcasm, by the way. He was so amazing that you forgot about the opening 8-play touchdown drive led by the one and only Anthony Richardson to open the game. Joe Flacco was just so amazing that you forgot that the second drive, of which Joe Flacco had a touchdown pass on, you forgot that Anthony Richardson was actually the one who moved the Colts down the field. He moved the ball into Pittsburgh territory before he got hurt, right? Then obviously he came back in after a Joe Flacco completion and a decent Jonathan Taylor run. And for some reason, Shane Steichen was like, hey, our starting quarterback just got hurt. Let's run him again. Then Richardson, he goes to run. He says that he wasn't accelerating like normal, so he tried to go down. Micah Fitzpatrick hits him anyway. Should it have been flagged? I don't know, probably, but hey, whatever. Before Anthony Richardson got hurt, we were seeing peak Anthony Richardson, Shane Steichen offense. The offense was churning out chunk plays, averaging over 10 yards a play. When Anthony Richardson was in the game, it was chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. They were throwing the ball down the field. Jonathan Taylor was running the ball efficiently. Anthony Richardson was running the ball efficiently. It looked like an elite offense that first drive and a half before Anthony Richardson got hurt. Even though the offense looked great with Richardson on the field, though, we're going to forget about that. And we're going to talk about Joe Flacco, the 39-year-old Super Bowl MVP. That's what someone said to me on Twitter yesterday. Super Bowl MVP Joe Flacco. Yeah, that was 11 years ago. He is not the same guy. If he was, then, he wouldn't be a backup in Indianapolis. He'd be starting somewhere. Some people, despite seeing how awesome the Indianapolis Colts offense looked to start that game with Anthony Richardson in, some people are going to opt for Joe Flacco, and they're going to vouch for him to be the starter. No way. Those people who call for Joe Flacco to be the starter, those are the people that go on the same beach vacation every year. They opt for the boring, safe option instead of going, to an amusement park and riding some roller coasters, or going skydiving in Europe, or hiking the Grand Canyon. Instead of going out, seeking adventure, doing different crazy things that create memories, instead of doing that, they opt to sit on a beach for a week, maybe read a book, sleep in, listen to the waves, like they always do. This is what my parents did. This is what my parents always wanted to do. My parents love the beach. They do. And I'll never forget the first time we went. It was cool. I'd never seen the ocean, boogie boarded, did all that kind of stuff, played in the ocean. It was fun. Had a blast. Don't remember much of it. Don't have very many memories from it, but I genuinely remember having a good time. But every year we went back, after that first time, I was bored out of my mind. It was no fun whatsoever. I have one memory from going to the beach, and it was the last time I went. My dad cracked his ribs playing two-hand touch football with me and my 2 other brothers. It was funny. I threw an absolute dot. Outside shoulder, right? My dad jumps, 3 inches off the ground, catches it hard in his chest, and my older brother, in order to, put him down, touches him with 2 hands, more like pushes him while my dad's in the air. He turns, parallel to the ground, falls, lands on the football, cracked his ribs. It was like the first day that we were out there. My dad was out of commission the rest of the time. That's the only memory that I have, because going to the beach was always a consistently boring vacation. It was a consistent vacation. I knew what we were going to do every day. I knew no one was going to be mad. I knew we weren't going to leave and be like, that vacation was terrible. Okay. I knew that. It was consistent, but it was consistently boring. I don't have any memories. And that's who Joe Flacco is. He's a consistently boring vacation that for the first couple weeks will be fun because the Colts haven't seen consistent, competent quarterback play since Phillip Rivers in 2020. At the end of the day, though, that consistently boring Joe Flacco isn't going to create any memories. The Colts are going to be like 10-7, 9-8. They might sneak into the playoffs where they'll lose in the first round to Buffalo or Baltimore. And then that's it. Okay, I guess we're going to do this again next year. No, you're not going to do that again next year because Joe Flacco's going to be 40. Okay, and then 20 years from now, you're going to think back on the history of the Colts, and you're not going to have any memories from this season. You'll remember that this year happened. You'll be like, yeah, we went 9-8, 10-7, whatever, but you won't have any memories. That is why Joe Flacco cannot be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. It's a path that leads to nowhere. It's a path that leads to more mediocrity. Sure, it'll be nice the first couple weeks. I'll be honest with you. When Joe Flacco hit a couple third and fourth throws for first downs, I got a little excited. I was like, that's nice. That's nice. But ultimately, the Joe Flacco route leads to nowhere. It leads to, at best, a first-round playoff exit. Meanwhile, instead of opting for something boring like a beach vacation, the Colts could opt to create some memories. And they could start Anthony Richardson, which is what they're going to continue to do. Oh, but what if Anthony Richardson's terrible? What if Anthony Richardson sucks? Do you know who's awful, worse than Anthony Richardson has been to start this year? The first year that they were a starter? Peyton freaking Manning. And you remember that year very well. You remember Peyton Manning's rookie season because he was incredibly awful. But also because it set the Colts up for long-term success. That first year of Peyton Manning was awful. Set the record for most interceptions thrown in a season. Okay? He was terrible. Okay? That first year was awful. Just like the first time you decide to not go on that boring beach vacation and go out and have a little bit of adventure, there's going to be some rough patches. My wife and I, for our honeymoon, we went to Asheville, which is currently underwater. Hopefully the people out there are okay. Okay? So my wife and I, for our honeymoon, we went to Asheville. We went glamping. We made some mistakes. Okay? We ate at some terrible restaurants. Got lost on the drive in. Dealt with some wildlife that we didn't really want to deal with. But despite the rough start to that honeymoon, we ended up having a great time. We're going to go back at some point when it's not underwater. And the next time we go, we won't make the same mistakes. Just like how with Peyton Manning, he made all those mistakes his rookie year. Made all of them. But his second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way through his final year in the league, he didn't consistently continue to make those mistakes. This is part of having a young rookie quarterback. There are going to be bad things that happen. That's just the reality of it. And the truth of the matter is that if the Colts want to make memories, they want to set their franchise up for long-term success, then Anthony Richardson is the guy that they have to roll with. And I think they will. Joe Flacco. Also, this is also the really important thing. Joe Flacco going 16-26 for 168 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no interceptions isn't going to win many games. 6.5 yards per attempt isn't enough offensively to score points. Joe Flacco, when he was in the game, also didn't move the ball. He didn't move the football consistently. Let's look at the Joe Flacco drives. The drive where he comes in where Anthony Richardson got hurt. Anthony Richardson had already moved the ball into Pittsburgh territory. Okay, and then they wind up scoring a touchdown. His first full drive came after the Steelers turned the ball over on downs at the Pittsburgh 39. Once again, Joe Flacco starting the drive in Pittsburgh Steelers territory. Joe Flacco was unable to capitalize on the good field position. The Colts had to settle for a field goal. Then the Colts had 3 straight punts. Matt Gay then missed a field goal on, the fifth possession that Joe Flacco was out there. And the only reason why the Colts were in field goal range is because the Steelers fumbled the ball and the Colts started the drive at the Pittsburgh 42. Once again, Joe Flacco unable to put 6 points on the board despite starting the possession with good field position. The Colts would finally add another touchdown on a 70-yard drive that Joe Flacco was 4 of 9 passing on, and that likely would have ended in another punt if it wasn't for the Minkah Fitzpatrick unnecessary roughness call on A.D. Mitchell. To Joe Flacco's credit, he did hit Alec Ogletree for a touchdown on that drive. Then the following possession, the Colts kicked a field goal, in large part because of Jonathan Taylor's 21-yard run that put them in field goal range. The Colts only threw the ball twice on that drive. Shout out to the offensive line, which was once again great for the Indianapolis Colts. Then on the final drive that didn't, conclude the end of the game, the Colts went 3-and-out. Joe Flacco did not move the football. There was one possession where he moved the ball, and a large chunk of it came off of a Minkah Fitzpatrick unnecessary roughness call. Joe Flacco didn't move the football. Whereas the drive and a half that we saw Anthony Richardson, the offense averaged 10 yards a play, and they were marching the football down the field. Anthony Richardson was throwing it well, 3 of 4 for over 70 yards passing, and they were running the crap out of the football. That is the other thing that differentiates Anthony Richardson from Joe Flacco is the run game. No matter who the quarterback is for the Colts, whether it's Joe Flacco or Anthony Richardson or me or you, it is imperative for the Colts to be able to run the football. Okay, because as we all know, Anthony Richardson's just not consistent enough to win a game with his arm alone. And Joe Flacco isn't winning a game with his arm alone. The Colts have to run the football well in order to win football games. And the Colts ran the ball better yesterday with Anthony Richardson in versus with Joe Flacco in because of the threat that Anthony Richardson provides when he runs the football. When Anthony Richardson was in the game, the Colts averaged 5.9 yards per carry when they ran the football. Versus when Joe Flacco was in, that average dropped to 3.5 yards a carry. The threat of Anthony Richardson's ability to run the ball elevates the offense. It does. That is a large part of why they moved the ball so well when he was in the game. Okay, because when he's in the backfield and he's with Jonathan Taylor, the defense has to account for both guys. And this is an important element of the offense that Joe Flacco can't and never will be able to fill. Anthony Richardson has to be the starter this year for the Colts. He gives them the best chance to win, and he needs to continue to develop. This will not and should not be a controversy. I would be stunned if the Colts sat Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco at any point this year. And hopefully the Colts are going to have Anthony Richardson for their Week 5 game on the road against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to need him to play well because, as we all know, the Indianapolis Colts never win in Jacksonville.